Good afternoon, CAIR, Florida. What up, Duval? Ain't a Duval? Like really? Really? We have to show CAIR, Florida how we do it. Duval! Okay, good. I mean, it wasn't good, but we're gonna go with it, right? So it is an honor and a pleasure to be with you all today. I am State Representative Angie Nixon, and I'm really humbled to have been asked to speak again at a CAIR Florida Gala. I'm happy that it is in Jacksonville because, woo, driving to Panama City and to Tampa is a lot. But I know that we're going to put them to shame and we're going to raise the most money in the state, right? Today? Okay, I'm just saying, we gotta put them to shame. But as I was saying, I'm truly humbled to have been asked to speak here before you today as a Black woman who was born and raised here in the South, born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. I like to tell people Southern Georgia because, you know, how we do. But yeah, so I'm just coming off of a special session. I actually didn't go because I was sick, but y'all saw what happened in Tallahassee this past legislative session. Instead of addressing the rising cost of property insurance, the rising cost of rent, the massive teacher shortage that we have in the state, they decided to go ahead and attack and demonize and villainize undocumented immigrants, right? They even went as far as asking for, went as far as putting $1,000 bounty on an undocumented immigrant's head as well. So basically, sheriff's departments and things like that, if they catch an undocumented immigrant, they can get $1,000. And that's what we're doing with your taxpayer dollars. And so it's really important, right? Especially what Dr. Thor said. A lot of people say, I don't do politics. Guess what? If you don't do politics, politics will do you. And we see that it's happening right now. And so I was asked to speak about our shared path moving forward, especially here in the state of Florida. And I don't know if y'all saw it, I hope y'all did. The night of the election, I was in the spin room with he's my least favorite mayor of Jacksonville, Lenny Curry, as well as with a reporter and a professor. But Lenny Curry is like an enemy of mine, right? And I know people often say that there are no permanent enemies in politics, right? There's only permanent interests. But I just really want to push back on that. Because how can you be friends with someone who not only doesn't like you, but they don't want your communities to exist? And that is real, right? And folks need to realize that we're in a different time from a couple of decades ago, but honestly, we have seen this before. This is our civil rights era. This is our generation's civil rights era, especially the millennials and the Gen Zers, and now the Generation Alphas, right? Literally, as you all saw and heard, when I sponsored legislation called for a ceasefire in the Florida chamber, I specifically asked how many Palestinians must die before we have a ceasefire, and Michelle Salzman, one of my colleagues, said all of them. All of them. Not only that, I was called a terrorist on the House floor. I was called ignorant. The majority of my opposition party, all of my opposition parties stood up and turned their backs on me as I was giving my final closing speech. The level of inhumanity and disrespect. I've never witnessed anything like that in my entire life. And that is why it's so very important for us to stand in unity and in solidarity, not just during times of convenience, but during times when our non-Muslim brothers and sisters are under attack as well, right? Because let's be clear, I'm a Christian, right? Born and raised in the Christian religion. I have maybe I do, but to my knowledge, I don't have any family members that are Palestinian or members of the Muslim community, but I stood in solidarity with them because it was the right thing to do. And it is important for us to do this year round, not when it's just convenient for me or for us. So I'm an organizer. I don't just consider myself a legislator. I've been a community organizer for over a decade here in the state. And so sometimes I say things that make people uncomfortable. Like I agitate. Organizers agitate, right? We try not to aggravate, we try to agitate. But we look at ourselves as washers. What do washers do, y'all? When you throw dirty clothes in them, what do they do? They agitate. But what happens after they agitate? It comes out clean and nice in the way it should be. So just know some of the things that I say may be agitational, but I am saying them because I love y'all and I want the best for our city, our state, and our country, and our communities. And so what we are witnessing right now in our country is a group of people who are so fearful. They are so fearful of no longer being the majority. They are so fearful of losing power and control because they feel like when Black and brown people come together, right, they feel like we're going to do to them what they've done to many of us for hundreds of years. Like that's what we're witnessing. And so they are passing bills and passing policy that is super detrimental and trying to stay in power at all costs because they want to just stay in control, right? But as I've stated numerous times, particularly at Dr. Rathor's house, when we come together, we don't do that. When we come together, we lead with love and honesty and dignity and respect. And you see, those that hate us, many of them are not voting against their interests. A lot of people say, oh my gosh, people are voting against their interests. No. They are voting for their interests. And it's because they are more concerned with being in proximity to power than being in proximity with solidarity and community. And some of these folks they're so consumed with money and they bought into this idea of the American dream, the capitalistic American dream, and getting this perceived power, because honestly, the rich and those in power are not trying to share, right? They're not. Elon Musk don't want everybody to be rich. And I don't even think he's really rich, because he's trying to break into the treasury. That's a whole other thing. I got this whole idea. I'm like, something ain't right. It sounds like he's a scammer. He's scamming, right? Like, why you gotta get all this information if you got I think he's a scammer, y'all. And as I stated, I'm in the legislature and I do movement work. And so I'm witnessing what is about to be one of the most horrifying times in our country and for many people. I've literally had 2 members of my party defect. Literally within the past month and a half, I've had 2 members of my party defect. And the reason that they defected is again because they want to be in proximity to power instead of solidarity. The same people who last year were supporting undocumented immigrants voted against them the other day. It is so wild to me. And the only reason they chose to do that is because they wanted to have an upward trajectory, and they felt like they could not do that being in the Democratic Party. And so they wanted to get more money, they wanted to, cut and broker some deals, and we can't be about that type of business. We just cannot. And so the point that I really want to push is, as I stated earlier, folks are in a proximity they want proximity to power. And I'm seeing and I'm hearing from it all over. Right? I'm also seeing that folks are terrified. I know folks are terrified of being targeted. Folks are terrified of being seen as a new immigrant, to the point that they are unknowingly surrendering and giving up their power, which is what my colleagues did. Right? They literally unknowingly, because let me be clear, if Joe Biden would have won, they would have remained Democrats. They chose to switch, and they chose to give up their power in advance without even a fight. This is how dictatorships happens. This is how authoritarianism rises. According to Tim Snyder, who wrote this book called On Tyranny, which I suggest people go purchase a copy. Also, if you want to get a copy, come get one from my bookstore, shameless plug. But most of the power of authoritarianism is freely given. In times like these, individuals think ahead about what a more repressive government will want and then offer themselves without even being asked. A citizen who adapts in this way is teaching power what it can do, and that's called anticipatory obedience. And it's done because they want to lessen the blow, not knowing that that's a slippery slope. Because when you say yes to things like putting a sticker or a sign in your window or identifying who you are, then you're more willing to say, it's okay for me to wear a pin or a patch to identify who I am. Then it becomes normal to be okay with others othering those that don't wear that same patch or that same pin. And then you start getting cool and okay with folks that don't look like you having less amenities and less resources than you. And then you begin to think it's okay for folks that don't wear your same pin to be treated less than you, right? To be treated with disrespect. It's a slippery slope. Then you start thinking it's okay, or you start questioning, oh my gosh, no, that he just acts weird. That wasn't a Nazi salute. Right?
Yes, he was.
But there's literally people saying that Elon Musk did not give a Nazi salute on the public stage. Like, it's a slippery slope. And that's why it's important for us to remain steadfast and be authentically ourselves, to be unapologetic about who we are and what our values are. To not just fall back into the shadows and to retreat and to acquiesce and to assimilate, because often that leads us to trying to become the most respected minority group. Right? It led us to falling into that trap. That trap being us turning our noses down on other minority groups and hating who they want us to hate. All in the name of respectability. All in the name of proximity to perceived power, right? Well, guess what? Like our oppressor, those in power, they don't care about any of us or about our religion or any of that. And we need to come together and show up for each other at all times. And that's the only way that we're gonna win. And I think what we're currently witnessing right now is the Democratic Party in real time imploding. I don't know how y'all feel about that. Regardless of how you do, like I have my thoughts and I'm a Democrat. But I want to talk more specifically about Black women that have been the backbone of that party. And so my sisters, many of my sisters, my Black sisters are tired and they are frustrated and they are hurt. And right now they're saying they aren't going to show up for people because they felt as though people haven't shown up for them. And I know that it's complicated and the stakes are way higher, and I'm an organizer, so I understand that things are nuanced. But the truth is, none of us are free until we're all free. And for so many people right now, despair is their North Star, and it's gray and it's dark. But I see a difference. I see creativity and color, right? And I want to be real, because if my party would have won the presidency, nothing would have changed. Nothing would have changed. But right now, we have the opportunity, because the lies are exposed, right? We have the opportunity to free ourselves. When the lies become exposed, it's liberating. And we have the opportunity to stop the perpetuation of a system that needs to be rebuilt, that's been hurting people. And remember, you can't right now tell, a lot of people can't tell the Democrats from the Republicans. And I'm being truthful. And again, we have the opportunity to be liberated and liberty to rebuild a system that benefits all, not just billionaires, but all. And it's really important to note that this past presidential election was our Brexit event. And we need to start working on building the right vehicles. And the right vehicles are CAIR Florida. We can't just build parties. We have to build up our people in order to build up our country. And so right now is a time where we need to grieve, but we do need to take some time and make space, right? And then come together and start having uncomfortable conversations and really learning to love one another and be with each other. And I believe that at the end of the day, we all deserve the opportunity to live healthy, prosperous, and safe. I believe we should all have the opportunity to no longer just survive, but to thrive and to flourish. But we also have a duty, as the famous freedom fighter Assata Shakur has said, it is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win, but we must love and respect one another, because when we do, we have nothing to lose but our chance. Thank you.